You're watching Restarting India. It's time now for the 2020 Deal Roundup. According to data compiled by Grant Thornton Bharat in its Annual Dealtracker, despite being one of the worst hit countries, India saw a sharp resurgence in deal activity in the third quarter. As a result, total deal value rose by 28% to $76.8 billion over 2019. Even deal volume saw a significant uptick at 1,299. In sector-specific action, the telecom industry accounted for 28% of the total M&A deal value for 2020, followed by 14% in the energy sector. Facebook and Google's investments in Jio were the two biggest deals in the M&A space, followed by the Reliance Retail Future Group deal. In the private equity space, also telecom industry accounted for 25% of the total deal value. Retail and consumer segments share stood at 16%. Well, joining me now is Prashant Mehra, partner at Grant Thornton Bharat. Prashant, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC TV18. Those are some of the highlights of 2020, but given where we see global outlook as well as the outlook for the domestic economy, what's the sense that you get about 2021? Do you believe it's going to be a big year or a continued big year as far as private equity investments into India is concerned?
Hi, Shireen. Actually, a very pertinent question, Shireen. You know, the year started, 2020 started with being a very difficult year, but I'm glad that we've ended that year as a different year than what we've had in the past. Deal activity, as you summarized, has been phenomenal. We've had 33% growth in corporate M&A, and we've got 25% growth in private equity. In terms of even QIPs, it's been the best year in the last decade or so. I think a resilient and focused response from economic policymakers has not only led to a sharp resurgence, but has also set the stage for balanced growth in the country, and perhaps which will attract even more investment. The pandemic has put emphasis on businesses with strong fundamentals, which is, will now focus on both the top line and the bottom line. I believe 2021 will witness a healthy balance between infrastructure, and when I say infrastructure, I think we have a new definition on that. It's not just brick and mortar, but it's technology as well. And on the other end, we'll see, focus on consumer sector as well, both, with a flavor of technology. Probably, some new terms will start gaining emphasis, such as unit economics, profitability, business model, not just revenue model, digitization, problem solving, real world solutions, the Bharat story, not the India story, rational valuations and smart cities. I mean, in a nutshell, I actually look forward to a much healthier and a successful 2021.
It's amazing how a crisis is getting people to focus on things that matter, things like unit economics, profitability, and business models. But I guess that's the nature of the game. But Prashant, you talked about some of the sectors that you believe will draw in investments in 2021. Infrastructure, not brick and mortar, so not the roads and highways as much as the digital infrastructure that you speak of. We're awaiting more clarity on the 5G rollout plans the government has in store. Where do you believe we're going to see the deals getting done? And do you believe that these are largely going to be buyouts that we're likely to see, majority being taken? Is that the expectation?
I think, Shireen, firstly, technology is a very wide sector now. I would call telecom also technology. There's less of cables and more of information highways and clouds there. So yes, while that physical infrastructure is also important, but I think the new definition of an infrastructure is about the digital infrastructure. The government's doing its bit. We believe there is a legislation which is currently in draft mode, which will allow technology companies in India to list overseas directly. That's a welcome move. In terms of the investments which are coming in, I think it will probably be a mix of both foreign money coming into India and, yes, a lot to do with consolidation as well. There are some very successful platforms which are sitting on lots of cash now, so there will be consolidation for sure. But yes, it probably will be at rational valuations.
Any new sectors that you believe will be in vogue in 2021? I mean, telecom, as you pointed out, has been the big story. Retail has been the big story of 2020. EdTech, FinTech, those continue to be themes that have gathered the momentum through 2020. Anything that's off radar that's likely to be in the spotlight in 2021?
Absolutely. I think we've seen some flavor of that in 2020, and I think we'll see more of that in 2021. From a B2B perspective, I believe, anything to do with HR tech will be the flavor of the new year. We've realized that geography is now history. Thus, we need to do more in terms of technology and people. So anything to do with HR tech will be one. And I think on the other side, we've seen a lot of investments going into online gaming. So anything around, edtech, as you rightly mentioned, but, something more on the entertainment side as well. I mean, we never know, some of the OTT channels could be attracting even more investments. That's really the entertainment of today.
Yes, HR check, online gaming, those can be some of the additional themes to watch out for. Online gaming, of course, already saw a fair amount of action in 2020. Prashant, I'll end by asking you, you talked about how this was perhaps the best year for QIPs in a decade, and we've seen India Inc. on a capital raising spree. Do you believe that that's likely to continue? What does the IPO pipeline look like as well?
I think, Shireen, pipeline is looking quite healthy, and it's got even more accelerated because of the new flavor, which is technology, as well as, the concentration on top line as well as bottom line. I see 2021, perhaps just after the budget is announced, we will probably see a lineup of investments coming into the market. And a lot of IPO activity, and perhaps towards the later part of the year, maybe some international IPOs as well, where Indian companies would debut on the overseas stock exchanges.
Yes, those foreign listings that have been much talked about, but we're still awaiting detailed guidelines from the government on being able to go through with that. Prashant Mehra, always a pleasure. Appreciate you joining us here